Hey, peace and blessings. Shalom to your family. I hope you're doing well. Listen, I will not be before you long. I don't think that it's really necessary to elongate this particular discussion. I think that it speaks for itself, and you will see it right there that the title is 150 Rounds and a Funeral. 150 Rounds and a Funeral. You know, we're living in some very dark days. Of course, you don't even have to be a follower of Christ, Yeshua, to even realize that. That we're living in some days, and especially if you are 40 and up, these are some days that we have not yet seen. Now, back in my time, in my era, of NWA and Snoop and Dre and DMX and all that, we had our times of wilding out, and we have sowed a lot of bad seeds. And unfortunately, those seeds are actually coming to pass. They are harvesting. And what we're seeing is a manifestation of so much darkness that we're going to have to be able to have a certain type of mindset to be able to address it. Now, this particular video, I'm going to hit a certain couple of points that I really want us to not just have a conversation, but to come up with a plan of action. Because what I've really found out, especially us as Black people, we love to talk. Oh my God, we can out-talk anyone, any race. We have town meetings, we have neighborhood meetings, we have church meetings, we have police and residential meetings. We have all kinds of meetings, and we just meet to meet. And sometimes we just greet to meet. But at the end of the discussion, after the end of the discourse, and all the flowery words of nothingness, what do we have as a plan of action? Now, this is for anybody, regardless of where you are, from the East Coast to the left coast, down south. I don't care if you're in Long Beach, if you're in St. Louis, the ATL, Miami, New Orleans, the BK, LI, Queens, or right here in North Carolina, that there's a lot of work for us to do. And we don't have a lot of time to just sit around to just dialogue without having a plan of action to follow. I just want to take you on a quick timeline of what's been happening in my city right here in Charlotte. Or better yet, should I say, not a timeline, but a crime line. Now, on the 5th day of September, a 16-year-old boy was shot and killed. Two people that were with him, two other youth, were wounded, but they are expected to live. On the 6th day of September, the following day, the murderer or the suspected murderer, the alleged murderer of the 16-year-old was a 14-year-old. Now we move to day 7, the 7th day of September. Now we see a drive-by that took place on one side of Charlotte. And then on the other side of Charlotte, just 1 hour later, there was another drive-by that took place. Shot up a house. Now, several hours later, there was another drive-by shooting spraying up a house. Now, right before midnight, we're still talking about the same day of the crime line. At 11:40 p.m., and you'll be able to see the footage. I'm gonna post the link in the description. That was captured by WCNC here in the city. That across the street from this home, the neighbors had a security system, and they were able, by way of cameras, to capture what took place on the 7th day of September at 11:40 p.m., right before midnight. Two cars pulled up. Everyone jumped out of the car with hoodies on, coronavirus mask on, and they just began to just spray up this house. 150 rounds from ballistics, 150 rounds were shot at this house. A 3-year-old baby who was sleeping, didn't even know what hit him, was struck by a bullet, taken to the hospital where he later died in the morning. His sister was also struck by a bullet, but she's expected to live. We're talking about 150 rounds and a murder. You know, we living in some hell of a times. I can remember back in my day, of NWA, Snoop and Dre, DMX, 50 Cent, Ja Rule, all them cats. It was a thing to, you thugging for life. Pac, all that. Biggie Small. And, we thought that was real cool. And we had drive-bys back in nowadays. Of course, we had a lot of gang activity going on. And it was senseless and reckless. And a lot of the music was fueling this mentality and behavior that we had on the streets. And a lot of seeds were sown from the behavior and the mentality that we had, but also a lot of seeds were sown into the wombs of a lot of women that gave birth to some wonderful children, outstanding babies. But along with that, there were some demonic seeds that were sown that's now coming to fruition in such a way to whereas we're seeing wickedness and we're seeing debauchery and recklessness and lawlessness like we've never seen before. We're still talking about 150 rounds and a murder. We have more churches than crack houses. On every corner, we got a church. Well, on every corner, we got a liquor store or crack house to match. But which one has the most influence? Is it a dope house or a trap house? Is it a liquor store? Or is it a church house? We have a lot of work that we have to do. And we love to talk. We love to talk about how bad times are and, this generation, but it's time to put some boots to the ground. Now, if you old and you can't get out there, I understand, but we can benefit from your wisdom. Just have a seat. Talk to us, because we can get out there in those streets. See, you got some people that ain't cowards and they ain't punks. And we are willing to put in that work for the kingdom. Just like we were willing to put in work for Satan's kingdom. But now we're on the other side in God or the Most High's kingdom. So now we can put in that work in making sure that people are safe, that people are healed, and that lives that have a purpose can reach their fruition in time. We're talking about a 3-year-old who never made it to grade school, who won't even know what a prom is, a high school graduation, won't even know what it means to drive a car, to talk on a cell phone, to start his own business. People are dying. 150 rounds in a funeral. And so it comes a time where we have to look at what is working, but what's not working. And I want to kind of curtail this because I want to salute so many organizations that are out there from coast to coast that's boots on the ground. They're not the traditional church organization, but they love God, and the hand of God is on them to make a difference wherever they are. Now, there are a lot of cats that are out there in the streets that want to be a gangster, but they don't even understand what being a gangster is. Many of the gangsters are already dead. The other part of the gangsters are locked up in prisons. Everybody claimed to be a gangster until that judge dropped that gavel. Everybody claims to be a gangster until they shut that door right behind you. And you realize, you know what? I got 20 years I got to do. And then they boxcard that with 10 years. And then I got 2 other pending charges. So you got 30 years. And you 20 years old. There are some organizations that are making so many waves of righteousness in the streets. But unfortunately, within the court system and also in law enforcement, I'm talking about the hierarchy of law enforcement that receive federal grant money, the sheriff's department that receive federal grant money, the court systems that also receive this money to be dispersed amongst organizations that are truly making a difference. But what I have come to find out, unfortunately, but this goes to show how wickedness is on the rise. There are organizations that are receiving funding that wouldn't throw a rock in a ghost town. There are organizations that are receiving local, state money to make a difference in the community, but they're completely ineffective and null and void. Their methods are antiquated. They are completely disconnected from the community, do not understand the heartbeat of the community and the underlying trauma that needs to be addressed within the community. So they receive all of this money to employ themselves and their friends to also receive salaries and to have annual dinners or etc., but not getting to the core or the crux of the problem. There are organizations that are highly effective in the community, but cannot get any grant money, cannot get any support from a local municipality standpoint. Why, you may be asking, Zion? Why? Because they are so effective in what they do, in not only to properly diagnose the problem, but to have effective and impactful methods to now deal with the problem, to bring forth positive and substantial results of longevity. And those organizations are a threat to the financial security of those who benefit from people being locked up. Now, you may be saying that's far-fetched, and that's your prerogative. But when you begin to see the benefits of having people locked up, incarcerated, as opposed to those being reached before they get locked up, before there's 150 rounds and a funeral. It is far better for those who receive the kickbacks. It is far better for those who have stock on Wall Street in privatized prisons. It is far better for those who live in wonderful, plush communities, send their children to Ivy League schools, drive in foreign cars. It is far better and meaningful to have bodies to fill the slave ships of prisons as opposed to have organizations out here that will stop individuals or serve as a healthy therapeutic barrier from them entering into the slave ships of prisons, because it will threaten the financial security of those that rely on the prisons. We're still talking about 150 rounds and a funeral. So it is up to us as individuals. I think that Pac said it best. Each one, teach one. There's some individuals that you cannot reach. There's some individuals that God can't even reach. It's not that Yahweh doesn't want to reach them, because he says that, listen, I'm not slack as some count slackness, but I'm long suffering. I'm not slack concerning my promise. I'm long suffering, not willing that any should perish, but that everyone come to repentance. So it's his will that every living, breathing person on this planet come to the reality of their purpose and to walk out their purpose for his glory. But there's some people that will shun the purpose of the Most High to embrace a purpose from Satan, the devil. That is their priority. That is their prerogative. There's some people that you will not be able to reach, because even the Most High will not infringe upon anyone's right to choose what he or she wants to do concerning their life, even though that it is he who is sustaining their lives. What a gracious Most High God. So we are to focus on those. Each one, teach one, wherever you are, whatever you do. Reach the youth. And those that, hey, man, I ain't trying to hear what you say. Okay, hey, let them go. Yeshua made it very clear, Jesus. If you go into a city and they receive you in peace, then shalom be upon them. But if they do not receive you in shalom, then you knock the dust from your feet and you keep it pushing. And the dust serves as a testimony against them that you were there sent by God to stop them or hope to restrain them from their madness. So when they get in that 30-year bid, they can reflect on, wait a minute, someone tried to restrain me from my madness. I didn't want to hear it. Somebody tried to talk to me, but I wasn't feeling it. But now you got all the time to think about that. But it doesn't have to get there. It doesn't even have to go that way. It doesn't have to go that far. But there's some individuals that they want to take it that far. But I'm focused on the individuals that can be reached. And so should you. So I just say all that to say this, how many more 150 rounds and a funeral do we have to hear about, witness, endure? See, this is the hallmark of the kingdom. It ain't just building another big church. And I believe that the Most High Yah allowed coronavirus to shut down, however it came, to shut down a lot of self-exaltation and self-aggrandizement of man. You won't be building no more fellowship halls. You won't be flying all over the United States and abroad and other continents and receiving $25,000, $30,000, $50,000 honorariums. No, because I'm going to allow coronavirus to shut you down, that you can see that I am the Most High God and that I am concerned with the souls that I created that are dying in the streets by 150 rounds and a murder. and a funeral. We have become so complacent. We have become so pious. We have become so prideful in building our own kingdoms and solidifying our own communities that many, not all, but many could care less about the community at large that's going to hell in a handbasket. So I challenge myself as I challenge you. Each one teach one. Each one reach one. For Yah so loved the world that he gave the gift to the world, his only begotten son, that whoso shall ever believe on Yeshua shall not perish, but shall have or obtain eternal life. There's a choice in the matter. And so it is our responsibility to not get so caught up in the rat race of, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to get more, I got to. Okay, that's wonderful. Live your life. But in the meantime, and in between time, reach somebody who wants to be reached. Reach somebody who feels that they just too lost to be reached. I was that one. Thought I was too lost to be reached until the Most High found me. And he reaches from the uttermost to the guttermost to bring us to the knowledge and the understanding of who he is and who we are to him. So that's all I've got. Like, share, let's put in that work. Many of y'all, what have God saved y'all from? What has he rescued you from? Because you ain't been saved all your life. Neither have I. What are some of the things that you've done that are just so nasty and low down? But the Most High God said, you know what? I can recycle you rather than discard you. And use your life as a testimony of my transformative power, that you likewise can make disciples as my son did. I'm out of here. Just follow me at the website, theshamefreelife.com. This is why it's so important to deal with trauma. This is why it's so important to deal with rejection issues, abandonment issues. This is why it's so important to have a safe place where you can take a look at your life in the mirror of reality and decide if you want to continue in that vein or if there's something different for you that you have yet to embrace. Because you've come to understand the value that's in you that needs to be pulled out of you, that's buried underneath the trauma, underneath the loss. So I'll holler at you later. Let's put in that work. Love your life. And just remember that your life, it begins when you say so. Peace and blessings, family.